Now, I would like to open the door for Q&A. You may have seen maybe these captions hopefully are not too distractive, but I would especially invite each one. You can immediately drop your questions or your feedback in the chat room. But please feel most welcome to ask questions to Professor Thierry Meynard, or also certainly if you have any feedback to Vice Director Alvaro Barbosa, most welcome to that now.
I would like to ask Thierry Meynard, what at your university, what proportion of the students might come from overseas, and have they been able to continue their studies online during this current period? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for your question. So in fact, I don't have the statistics, how many students in our university. I should say, for example, in our philosophy department, we have a few international students, but mostly they are kind of units, you know, so you could say for probably if we add undergrad students and the graduate student, probably we have 800 students, and perhaps among those 800 students, perhaps you will have, in normal time, you will have perhaps 10 or 20 international students. So it is a very small proportion. But you have some school where you have a bigger proportion of students. So I should say, for example, for the School of Business, and of course you will have a bigger numbers of people. And also in Guangzhou, I mean, we have Yat-Sen, but other university, we have a School of Medicine. And so they have programs arranged especially for those foreign students to get all their degree in English. And so to study, for example, medicine. And so you have students coming from India or Mauritius, all of that, and they will do their curriculum in English. And okay, so that it is the first part about what are the arrangement for international students. So I should say probably I believe for the people who, the foreigner who take a career in medicine, was foreign students, probably I believe there is a kind of online teaching as a kind of remedial. But the problem, of course, when you do a medicine, you have also to do a practicum. And so that also, so is to say that they cannot fulfill all the requirement of the course only through online courses. They need also practice. And so what it means that people may not be able to graduate if they are not present. I know that there were some high school or some universities in China, they tried to open physical education through online courses. But I think there was such a protest about it, when people were joking about how can you do physical education online, and so that also was dropped. So you see that kind of some curriculum that are not possible to do online.
Thierry, would you like to address the question from Jimmy Sham about the financial difficulties due to COVID and how many students and professors leave the university? So the whole financial aspect on this problem.
Yeah, I think probably the financial aspect will be mostly from the parents, because the parents, many of the parents may be affected into the revenue, and because they have lost their job, and so that will be a problem. But but in China, in fact, the university, I mean, they try to really to help the students who face difficulties to pay the tuition. And so the tuition in a Chinese university usually is around, for 1 year, is 10,000 renminbi. And the dorm is very, is around perhaps 2,000 or 3,000 a month, no, 3,000 a year renminbi. And so for that, I mean, the university will try to do its best to help students. So in terms of faculty, so that of course it has been a problem for the foreign faculty, because some foreign faculty were in China with some kind of temporary job, 3 years contract, I should say. And so when they were not able to return to China, to the campus of the university to continue their mission somehow, somehow the university may have decided to sever the contract. And so for them, it had been quite financially difficult, because they lost all their income at once, because they were not able to return, and so the university terminated the contract. But for most of the Chinese staff, I should say there is no, I mean, what I see here, there is no consequences. But of course, there are other universities where, because part of the salary of the teacher sometimes come from the local government, and some local government may have decided to cut down some compensation, things like that. And so in some universities in China, the faculty may have seen a slight reduction in their salary.
Thank you. Will Fatima express a question, or which one do you think may have been the main changes in Ricci during his journey to find Christ in China, or a Chinese Christ? Fatima, would you like to address this question? I think, Thierry, you get the main, this is, I think, a nice group you are familiar with. And always famous for asking difficult questions. So please, I think, Thierry, you may go into it. Yes, please.
Yeah. I think it has been a very tough journey for Ricci, because also he was always in looking for companions. So he was very far away from his friends in Italy. And so he was writing letters to his friends, and he was somehow complaining that he was always thinking to his friends in Italy, but he was complaining that his friends may have forgotten about him. And so it has been, I should say, quite a lonely experience for Ricci, especially a few times he lost companions when on his journey, I mean, in Shangguan, there were 2 young Jesuits who died because of illness. And when he went also from Shangguan to Nanchang, also there was on the boat also he lost a companion, thing like that. And so he had this kind of very tough experiences where somehow he was with companions, and he was at one point also he was somehow alone, and so I think the kind of depression of Ricci because of his kind of loneliness. And I think that there is one part of his life somehow where he was very downsized, downtrodden, that he didn't see any hope. But at that time, he had an experience like Ignatius of Loyola at La Storta, because at that night, he had a kind of dream, and the dream was telling him that Christ will be beneficent to him in Beijing. And so that was a kind of confirmation of his intuition that he should not give up, but that he should continue his journey and advance, go to Beijing. And so it has been this kind of transformative experience, facing his own weakness, his spiritual weakness, his the lack of resources, things like that, to put all his trust in Christ, but also through a kind of a rational discernment about what will be possible. And so he understood that time there was a real possibility for him to go to Beijing and to do something there. And so through that he was able, but it was not, I should say, it was a tough journey.
Great, and I would again, merci beaucoup for Thierry, for this wide range of topics you have covered.